Greetings, ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to another tank review. This time we are looking at the Vickers Mk 6C, Tier 2 British Premium Light Tank. This was actually a gift tank for New Year 2014, so the New Year's just gone. And I thought I'd just quickly show you this little thing. It's one of those tanks that Wargaming gave out for free at New Year's, as they do every year, and that a lot of people have probably sold, because it has its severe limitations. But it's not an absolutely terrible machine, and if any of you have seen my T7 combat car review, it's a very, very similar tank to that, and has many of the same problems. Perhaps more of a problem, most of the problems are more to do with the tanks that other people choose, rather than this tank itself necessarily. But anyway, what do you get with this thing? Well, you get 150 hit points, which is pretty standard for a tier 2. It's only a 5-ton tank, so don't ram anything. It's 5 tons with no armor. Do not ram things, you will not come off very well. An 88 horsepower engine means that it has an okay power to weight ratio of about 16 horsepower per ton. Yeah, closest damn it, 16-17 horsepower per ton. But it turns fairly well. The armor, I'm not even going to bother with. It is negligible. You would just go straight through this with a machine gun, so let's not even faff around with that. And the view range at 300 meters is pretty damn bad. Signal range 375, also not very exciting, but it's only a tier 2 machine, so I guess that's not necessarily a huge surprise. And I would like to mention at this point, before I get any further and forget to do so, that this tank does get preferential matchmaking, i.e. regular tier 2s will get into tier 2 games where they're fighting tier 2s and tier 1s, and they'll also see tier 3 games where they're fighting tier 3s and tier 2s. This does not get the latter. It will only ever be matched up against tier 2 and tier 1 tanks, and the reason for that is the gun. Now, this is a premium tank, of course. There's no research path or anything to do with it. You just get what you get. And again, for those who saw my T7 combat car review, this is essentially the same gun. 15mm Baser machine gun. 40 shells in the container, 0.14 second time between loading. Don't worry too much about that. What you need to know is that it takes you 18 seconds to load the magazine, and you can then unload the magazine into someone. It's a magazine-fed gun. It's a machine gun. The aim time of 1.5 seconds is good, but you fire so fast that you're not going to be aiming between shots anyway. And the accuracy is garbage. Damage per shot is garbage. Penetration is garbage. And that's the reason that this tank sees preferential matchmaking. The penetration of 27, combined with the fact that it can only fire armor-piercing ammunition. There is no high explosive. There is no premium ammunition option. It fires armor-piercing. Deal. That's it. So basically, what is this gun good for? It is good for shredding, and I mean shredding, lightly armoured tier 1 and 2 tanks. It will blitz itself. What is this gun not good against? Anything that's sporting any sort of armour, T18s being the primary example, but the Hotchkiss line of tanks is also a bit of a problem, and there are some others. But T18s are the main one. A similar deal with the T7 combat car. And I'm making all these comparisons because the T7 combat car was also given away as a gift vehicle, and this was given out some time later, and it's essentially a British T7. There are a couple of differences between the two. The American machine carries more ammunition, carries 3 times the amount of ammunition. Not that that's really relevant, I've never run out in this tank. But the British, and since they buffed it, the American machine actually accelerates better and is fractionally faster. But it's also much larger and not better armoured. So, I mean, this is a very, very small target. Just to give you an idea, there's the Vickers, here's the Cruiser Mark III. Boom. Now, the Cruiser's quite a large tank. You could argue, okay, here's the Vickers. Let's go with, well, okay, the T7 combat car. There we are. The Vickers is a small, dinky little thing. It's a little toy tank. Look at it. It's adorable. Now, of course, in reality, these things weren't designed to be used against other tanks, which is why it has a machine gun. It was designed to be used against infantry, but in this game, there are no infantry, so it's being used against other tanks. Now, as of yet, there hasn't been an opportunity to buy this thing, but often with these gift tanks, they are sometimes available in very expensive gift packages, where they're sort of bolted on as an added extra. But there are very few opportunities to buy them, and I really wouldn't fuss yourself too much about it. One good thing this tank does have despite the fact that it has this sort of awkward rear-mounted turret, it has 10 degrees of gun depression, which is quite nice. So you can sort of work hills if you really want to and whatnot, but you don't have the armour anywhere to back it up. If anyone looks at you and shoots in your direction, if it hits, it's basically penetrating and going to do damage. And with 150 hit points, you can maybe survive, what, 4 hits? 3 hits from similar tiered tanks with the sort of guns you tend to face. I mean, the cruiser does, was it 40 odd average damage? 45 damage per shot. So 4 shots from a cruiser will kill you. But in the time it's taken him to fire those 4 shots, provided you are at point blank range, you'll have killed him. And here's another limitation, this machine gun. The penetration will fall off with distance, and penetration on machine guns, weapons seems to fall off even faster with distance, so you can't use this gun at range. You have to be point blank range, right into your opponent's face. Sorry about that. So yeah, that's basically the tank. I'll show you some gameplay in a minute, but just quickly before I do, I'm not going to talk about crew skills because this is a premium tank. If you have a British light tank crew, shove it in this. If you don't have a British light tank crew, you're probably not going to even bother with this tank. I certainly wouldn't recommend having a crew dedicated to this machine. How about equipment? Well, you can see I've got improved vents class 1 because it just generally improves the performance of your tank. Is there anything else I'd give it? Toolbox, not really worth it. Gun laying drive, not worth it. Coated optics, 10% of garbage is still garbage, not worth it. Spore liner, no. So basically I would recommend coated optic, well, improved vents if you want improved vents and don't think that you have to. Binocular telescopes and camo net. That's the setup I run. That's what I would recommend. In terms of consumables, well, I've got consumables on this, but frankly it's a tier 2 machine. You could get away without them. I certainly wouldn't recommend anything that's going to cost you money every match, like any of the fuels or pudding and tea or anything like that. If you want to go consumables, go your standard consumables. You could probably drop the fire extinguisher. I don't think I've ever had this thing catch fire, although I haven't played that many games in it. First aid kit and repair kit could be useful, but it's tier 2. I mean, you could not bother with those, and most of the time you'd be fine. So, that's the tank. Let's show you a bit of gameplay and then we'll wrap this up. This is not going to be a particularly long review because there isn't too much to say about these low tier premium gift tanks. So, on with some gameplay. Here's the game I wanted to show you, and we are here on the province map that you don't see at mid or higher tiers. You only see down here at tiers 1, 2 and 3. So this is a tier 2 game, obviously, because this thing doesn't see any other tier games. And because we have a gun that is really not suitable for long range work, we are going to play this game rather aggressively. So you can see the considerable reload time for loading the magazine on this thing. And you can also see that this thing is no slouch. It gets up to a good head of speed. So you do have to be a little bit careful that you don't, you know, track yourself as you navigate terrain that isn't just a road. So we were bombing along there at sort of, we could have gone a little bit faster. It was 60 at one point. As I say, it could have been faster, but wanted to make sure that we didn't track ourselves, and we're just going to come up here. And, ooh, T1. See if I can unload on him. And despite the fact that he's at some distance, and not all of those shots penetrated, I have enough shots in the magazine to end his little journey. So we just keep coming up here, and you can see that my friends are opening up on these guys and making them wish they were somewhere else. Meanwhile, the only person that I'm aware of that tried to take our ridge line, well, I machine gunned him in the bum. So there I pick up kill number 2 by taking off the last few hit points from the light 6C on the opposing team. And because I'm going up this ramp, I just take the opportunity to reload my magazine, despite the fact that I still had a lot of shells in the old one. But whatever, it's all dandy. So we have a full magazine to do this with. Hello little T1, how are you today? And he's dead. And again, we've got a bunch of shells left, but we just decide to reload the magazine so that we are fully prepared for anyone else that we manage to come across. And it's not as if anyone appears to be pressuring our position right at the moment. But it is currently 5 kills per side. Onwards we go. So just poke our heads around the corner. Maybe I should actually have almost side-scraped around that corner, not because of the armor value of it, but just because I'd have been exposing less of my tank, as this is a rear-mounted turret, but I didn't. And in the end it worked out okay. Ooh, artillery and an L tractor. Don't seem to have any shots on that artillery, although he is getting thoroughly worked over now. Oh, there he is. L tractor, dead. And the artillery also gets taken out. Now I could be pressured fairly soon, so I don't reload the magazine, he says just as he reloads the magazine. So I wasn't going to reload the magazine at that point, but I reconsider my choices and think that, well, you know what, I can find a little divot here that gives me cover. So let's reload the magazine as I do so, and oh look, BT2. We're almost reloaded, we're reloaded, and we open up at that guy and kill him. But unfortunately a Panzer II opens up on us and kills us. And there you can see that our armour on that tank is just non-existent. You know, in the same way that we were ripping open every tank we came across. If an enemy with an autocannon comes across us, they will also rip us apart. We've only got 150 health. So, no Top Gun there, unfortunately. But we do get out of this game an award. A medal. I wonder if you can guess which one it is. And I think I'm just going to watch this to its conclusion. So we're winning 11-7, make that 12-7. So we should win this, although, you know, T-18, never underestimate the retarded power of a T-18 in this sort of matchmaker. Especially as our Cruiser 3, which would have one of the best guns on the team to deal with it, unfortunately appears to be stock, so he's using the machine gun. Very similar gun to the gun I was using. Ooh, but he gets taken out by the Panzer II, who is now on 4 kills. We've got our Universal Carrier 2-pounder making its way up the ridgeline. And we're 4 tanks ahead. So hopefully, you know, this should be a win. Make that 5 tanks ahead, 6 tanks ahead. It's just that Panzer II left. And however well he does, I don't think he's going to manage to outperform the 6 remaining tanks on our team. He's on 44 health. He's on 6 health. He's on no health. And there we go, that was the game. And that ended up being my ace tank again. Got a good amount of damage, 5 kills, and patrol duty. For all those guys getting shot at when I was spotting them, which was nice. So have a look at the post-game results, and then we'll head back to the garage for some concluding remarks. So, am I going to keep this tank? Yeah, I keep all my little gift tanks. It can be quite good fun, but do I play it very much? No. And so it's the only premium British light tank in the game at the moment. So I could use it to train my British light tank crews, but if you look at the tech tree, the Brits don't really have that many light tanks. They don't have a dedicated light tank line. So the only light tanks you'll have lying around is if you've decided to keep any of the lower tier British light tanks, and a lot of them people don't like. I mean, you've got this line, Cruiser 1, Cruiser 2, Valentine. They can be worth keeping. The Valentine is basically worse than the Matilda, so it's not really worth keeping that, I don't think. But the Cruiser 2 has an interesting little howitzer that you could pack. If you look at the other line, Cruiser 3, well, I've kept it. Cruiser 4, some people like to keep it. Covenanter, I had good fun in. Crusader, tends to be unpopular, but some people like it. If you keep any of those tanks, you'll have a crew that you can use in this tank. But for a lot of people, I don't think that's really an issue. I don't think they really want to keep this. And if you don't want to keep it, sell it. But I am keeping it because it was given to me, and, you know, why not? I'm not currently, I don't currently have a shortage of garage spaces, so, you know, I'm going to keep it. But conversely, I wouldn't necessarily recommend you going out and desperately trying to get your hands on this thing, because, as I say, if I'm honest, it's not a particularly good tank, especially with the prevalence of T-18s at Tier 2. And it tends to only, or these little low-tier gift tanks tend to only be available through quite expensive packages from the Wargaming gift shop, and I wouldn't recommend spending a load of money with the main aim of getting this, although they're often bolted on as extras, so I guess if you're going to buy the package anyway, go for it, but I'm not going to recommend it. So there we go. That was the Vickers Light Mark 6C British Tier 2 Premium Light Tank. I hope you guys enjoyed that review, and possibly even found it vaguely useful. If you did, please feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel, and I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.